What's good, everybody? My name is Alckemy, and today's video is a long one that's way overdue, and I am going to be talking about the application of the Aeturnum presets that I have for sale on my website. Now, this isn't necessarily just like an advertisement, although that is what I do and that's how I make money. But what I'm going to be showing you today is actually the aspect of what my presets are and then how I've actually used them in the context of a song. So for whatever reason, even if you are making your own experimental sounds and stuff, you might have something to learn, even if you don't have the Aeturnum series. But let's go ahead and talk about what that actually is in the first place. So a long time ago, a really awesome company by the name of Sensel gave me a morph, and it kind of like opened up a lot of doors for how I understood sound design. And the reason why is because it supported MPE, and right around the same time, Phaseplant came out with the ability to have multipass and snap heap within the plugin itself. And so I kind of created this kind of outlook of things and different patches and whatnot that has a pretty much comprehensive like Neuro bass or like bass type of phrases and things all in one patch. So right now this is kind of how they all look, and they've evolved over time. We're on the series 4, I guess, but if you just kind of listen to this, it should just be just a regular bass. However, whenever you start to turn stuff on, it becomes more complex over time. Now, the filter over here is a Neuro filter, which is just a bunch of, complex routing and filtering and stuff. But it's kind of dictated by the LFO that we have here, but you can also set it to be random just by opening this up and clicking, turning the follow off, and then kind of letting these go rampant. But also we have a generator knob, which does stuff like this. And so basically it creates a bunch of really cool and varied sounds that all kind of have like a similar characteristic but have a different phrase each time you play the sound. And that's why they're all labeled as like monsters and ghosts and dragons and stuff, is because that's what they remind me of. So while this stuff is cool and while there is a ton of versatility in it, I do think that it is a little bit more complicated than 2 clicks and it's done, right? Not naming any names, but yeah. The idea behind this is that it's supposed to help you like with all of your sound design needs as far as the bass department. So you can use this as a sub, you can use this as your fills, you can use this for creating riffs. And what I'm going to be doing now is showing you how I use this exact preset that I just pulled up within the context of a tune. Now, before I go any further though, one thing I forgot to mention was that because I've created a huge library of these, you can actually just mix and match the different filter archetypes or even combine them to create your own presets, kind of like Legos. So you don't have to go in and open up each multipass and snap heap thing and then like do your own sound design, even though I provided the templates. Instead, you can just, so this one is all called Aurora Dragon. So you've got 4 different presets where you have the filter, you've got some mid-side stuff, and then you've got, the generator thing that also has its own mid-side counterpart. But within this, if I wanted to switch it out for something else, I can just upload a different preset and everything will still work. So I can literally pull up something from, the Aeturnum 4 and pull up the aberration filter, and now that will change the sound. We can make the speed go slower, or we can even switch out the generator for something different. So maybe pull something up like the Asgoth generator and make sure that the mix is turned on. You can see that everything is mapped to the same thing because we're not changing the actual snap-in preset itself or the actual snap-in itself, so that way the mapping stays. But now we're going to have a different variation of this. And this is kind of like my love letter to sound design, because it combined pretty much all of the, I guess, like cool tricks and like techniques that I know how to do into like a single ecosystem that you all, including myself, are going to benefit from. So because you have a ton of variation, I'm not going to say the possibilities are limitless, even though they might allude to that. Yes and no, but the thing with this is that it can be very difficult to think about application. So because all of these presets, especially the multipass and snap heap, work outside of Phaseplant, that means that you can apply these to different sounds in itself. So one of the things that I've done in this track, which I'll play for you in a second, is made just like a very simple melody. It's nothing that complicated, but through using the likes of Snap Heap, I did use Portal, but you don't have to use that. You can kind of just throw one of these racks on here and kind of see what you get. I'm just going to pull one up, maybe the Amanazoka generator. And once we turn this on, the mix is over here, by the way, so they won't work whenever you upload them natively, just so that way it doesn't scare the crap out of you. But now when we listen to this, you end up getting some really cool texture. And so these racks and stuff can be used on anything, and then what you want to get into is that idea of resampling. So what I've done was I've used a combination of this earlier, and I ended up making this riff, which sounds like this. And this was the first thing that I started with in the project. And then again, that came from resampling a Snap Heap rack from this little guy, and that allowed me to create some more stuff. And then what I started doing was designing my basses, which I made some 808s and stuff, and I kept on doing this like maybe a few more times, and I ended up getting a bunch of texture for the intro, which sounds like this. Now with that, you can also throw these racks on the master, so you'll see that these kind of racks are just littered everywhere, and because if you play this over the main section, you can get a bunch of really cool material as well. Lots of really cool stuff. And you just can't like get this kind of sound design like just by doing it on purpose, right? So using these racks in tandem with you know, an idea that you have will give you a lot of really cool results. And so a lot of the other textural things that we have, this stuff in particular, is how I've been able to, you know, get that really cool movement and motion. And even this guy over here. So with that, you can also throw these on things like vocals. I recorded my own voice several times over here, as you can see, and just thrown on a Snap Heap rack. The name of this tune is called Phantoms, and we were on stream, and I was just like, oh, we're just going to drop a line, which sounds really cheesy, but it's like this. Phantoms in my sleep, keep my soul out they reach. And so after adding some of the Snap Heap stuff that we have on here, which I have this drum resampler, it's not quite a, you know, it's not quite like a monster generator, but that and the like of having generative aspects. Phantoms in my sleep, keep my soul out they reach. Phantoms in my sleep, keep my soul out they reach. Phantoms in my sleep, keep my soul out they reach. Gives you a lot of cool variation in order to create interesting vocals that you can use for your track later. So that is all fine and dandy, but let's actually talk about the bass now. But before I do that, let's go ahead and just take a listen to the first main section of this. We're going to skip to about here, and it sounds like this. So this little guy was actually from this patch, which is the same Aurora Dragon, and this is one of the newer patches that I made, but that's just because almost every time I stream I make a new patch like this. But what I did was, as you can see, I just kind of grabbed this and did one single note like this because I knew that I wanted it to be a fill, and rather than trying to make a whole riff with this or whatever, I had an 808 and then chose to, you know, pick a spot where I wanted to fill. And then what I did was I did a couple of different variations, but I just hit, you know, obviously Bitwig is wonderful for this, but just bounce in place, and I gave myself a texture, and I don't really know what it's going to be, but sounds pretty cool. All right, we can try it again, where you can just hit undo and then try it again, see what you get. And suddenly I've given myself an interesting texture in which I can provide for fill bases and stuff. And what you can do with this, if you want, is because of the flexibility of this, you can see that you can create your own rhythms via an LFO if you want. You can do things of generative means, you can do things in reverse, you can turn everything off like this, and turn the move off, which this will just become a Reese. And then you can use that as a sub. You can also turn the stereo off in case if you're worried about mono compatibility. Or you can reintroduce it. Or if you're just trying to have like a long aspect of like a long cut to sift through, which I've talked about within a sampler, then you can change the pitch, which will just jump between octaves. So we turn the generator off. You can slow it down with the speed. Or you can even come into this and just change the shape. So really the flexibility with this is just about everything that you could want within a preset. And even though some people might say that some of the presets sound kind of similar, the fun of it is to get those small differences and really play with the interaction between the filter and the generator, and then also the reverser that I've been putting on at the edge of all of these. Because when you start to do that, it's not even like everything sounds inspiring, at least to me. And these are the kind of sounds that just, I don't know, I don't really hear them that often, even as long as I've been doing this, and they're just really fun to use and really fun for, I don't know, making monsters or for using for layers, for, you know, like creatures in games, or for just really cool bass phrases. And every single preset, you know, has some kind of characteristic like that, to where it's got your respace, it's got your, you know, sub thing that has a definite tone, so you can just use that as like your fundamental, and then it's got all the crazy movement implemented within that. But throughout the rest of the track, you know, there is really just a matter of having a fundamental sound, which for this it's just, you know, just a really solid sub to kind of carry the rest of the energy of the tune. And then in certain cases, kind of like this, I'll have a fill. Or right here as well. And so whenever you get into kind of playing everything together with your main section and all of the elements and stuff, you get something kind of like this. Even that sound right there, this one I actually wrote last night, like at like 3 o'clock in the morning, but it's just a resample of the same thing, but I bounced this out and this is what I got. And that was super cool in the context of a fill. So and then again, all this other stuff is just bounces of the snap heap and multipass presets that I like to use. And from there, you can kind of see how you can build a workflow around these without feeling like you have to do too much work. I say that, but I put a lot of work into the initial sound design of what sources I throw into there. But because whatever you throw into these, it's going to twist it and mangle it. It's going to be somewhat unpredictable each time, and you never know like really what's going to happen. Even for the outro of this, I had this turned on. You can see that this is a snap heap rack, and I bounced this out a couple of times. But look how like this ended up being a really cool texture for the outro. And so with that, you know, this unlocks a lot of doors for your sound design barriers that you might have, because it's going to give you like that Neuro vibe. That's what these are. These are neuro processing racks and presets and chains that kind of do all the legwork for you. And of course, like, my imagination works with these because I'm the one that designed them and whatnot, but I don't think that it would be too hard for you to kind of adopt a workflow similar to how I'm teaching. And the accessibility aspect of it, to even just get access to the sounds, makes your production a lot easier. So I have currently 4 different series of this, which is Aeturnum 1 through 4, 4 being the most recent. It's available right now at alckemy.com, and I kind of just like wanted to take the time to showcase some of this stuff because there's just not anything out there on the market right now that is anything near close to it. And, you know, that's not saying that I'm the only person that's doing this kind of stuff, but it's more so in the sense of like, this is something that you can not only support the channel with, but this is something that I think will be useful to anybody that is actually into like the neuro scene or whatever. And this is something that like you can use to figure out sound design and reverse engineer as well. So thank you all for watching. If you have any questions, please just leave me a comment. If you have purchased Aeturnum 4, then please leave a comment below. Let me know what you like, what you don't like. This is my baby right here. This is pretty much what the Alckemy Neuro channel stands for. And I'm so happy to be able to show you guys some music that I've actually been able to create with this in order to kind of be like, this is something special. So with that out of the way, thank you guys so much. I'll see you in the next one.